All right, so for today, our learning target is I can write an equation in slope-intercept form when given a graph or a table. So slope-intercept form is an equation set up as the following. Y is equal to mx plus b, where m is going to represent your slope of a given graph or table of information. Remember, slope is the same thing as rise over run. That is what your m value will be replaced as. It could be a fraction, it might be a whole number, it might be a decimal. But just remember that when we are talking about slope, anything that is written as a whole number or as a decimal should be converted into a fraction for you to be able to properly graph that information. And then here we have plus b, and I'm actually going to write a minus sign under the plus sign because it could be a plus or a minus b. The reason I say it could be plus or minus, if it's plus b, that means that that is a positive value. If it's minus b, that would be a negative value. And that would indicate your y-intercept. That's the point at which x is equal to 0 and y is equal to some other value. Could be 0 or it could be a non-zero value. But it just basically is where your line crosses over the y-axis. Okay, so y is equal to mx plus or minus b. M is your slope, b is your y-intercept. So when we're taking a look here at this graph, the y-intercept, again, is the point at which we've crossed the y-axis. So that's going to be at the value 2. Because if we look at our graph, we're going, x is at 0. We go up 2 points, and there is our y-intercept. And then our slope shows an increase of 3 over 2. We're going up 3 to the right 2, up 3 to the right 2 continuously. So that's where we're going to get our slope. Our slope has a rise of 3 and a run of 2. That gives you an m value of 3 over 2. So when we write our equation is y is equal to 3 over 2, x plus 2. And I say plus 2 because it was a positive. If it was a negative 2, I would just say minus 2. That would indicate that it is a negative. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is the really easy stuff. Given these equations, I want you to tell me what value is the slope and what value is your y-intercept. So go ahead and do problems A, B, and C. Again, remember your slope is the coefficient to your x. Your y-intercept is the constant in the problem. What are you adding or what are you subtracting? Okay, as I said before, these are really quick and easy to be able to identify from the equation. It's y equals mx plus b. Again, m represents your slope and b represents your y-intercept. So what is the slope for our first one? Say it out loud, guys. Come on. You guys are understanding that this is your slope, right? So I should have a very unison response right now that everybody should be able to see that slope is what? Okay, wake up. Thank you. What is the y-intercept then? A positive 3. I need you guys to wake up and respond. If you don't wake up and respond, then that means I need to give you a quiz instead. Okay, what is my slope for problem B? Hassan can't be the only one answering. Come on, guys. What's the slope for problem B?
1/4.
What is the y-intercept?
-6.
Thank you. I know it's Monday and you guys don't want to be here, but you got to wake up. Problem C. Taking a look at problem C. What is the slope? -1. Good. What is the y-intercept?
5.
5. Thank you, Lucas. Okay, again, your slope is that m value, -5 or 1/4, or in this case, a -1. Okay, if it doesn't have a value written there, we know it's a 1. Our y-intercept is just whatever we are adding or subtracting in the problem, the constant in the problem, that b value. Okay, sometimes they might leave it as the y-intercept is 3 or -6 or 5. Other times they might write it as a point. So just be understanding of the fact that it could be written as a 3 or it might be written as 0,3. It might be written as -6 or it might be 0, -6. It could be 5 or it might be 0,5. Either one of those is acceptable. Just make sure you understand both. If you ever see it where it says 3, 0, you know that that would be the wrong answer choice because it's not a y-intercept. That would be an x-intercept. Okay, taking a look at example number 2, we're going to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form given the following information. So if we're given the slope in the y-intercept, or if we're given a graph, then we can go ahead and create the slope-intercept form for our equation. Again, it's always the same format, y equals mx plus or minus b. So here, our slope, which is our m value, is a positive 2. That's our m. Our y-intercept is negative 8. That's our b value. So when I'm writing this equation again, I'm going to write it in that format. Y is equal to mx and then plus or minus b. And I just need to fill in the components here. So the only things that's going to get replaced is the m value. The m value is going to get replaced and changed to a positive 2. And then the b value, instead of saying plus or minus b, I'm just going to write down that it's a minus 8 because it was a negative 8. Y is equal to 2x minus 8. For problem B, it's a little bit different. They didn't just directly tell you the slope or directly tell you your y-intercept. You have to identify those things. Now, identifying the y-intercept is the easiest because you're just looking for the part where you're crossing the y-axis. What point am I crossing the y-axis on this graph? 0 and 20, right? Here at 0, 20, this value, that is my b. The b value is going to be a positive 20. Now we have to identify the slope. So we just have to identify the rise over the run from one point to the next point. They gave me 2 points here, didn't they? They gave me this first point, which was my y-intercept, and they gave me the second point right here. I also have another point and another point, another point. Remember, wherever it crosses perfectly on the grid. So if I'm going from, I don't want to use my B just because I've already circled it. We're just going to go ahead and use this first point here and then this directly next point. Who can raise their hand and tell me what would be considered the rise, the increase from going up 1 point to the next? Jeffrey? Nope. Mario? 5. How do you know it's 5? Because it goes from what to what? Goes from 25 to 30. Yes, it increased by 1 box, but a box is not the same as the interval. This is an increase of 5. What about the run? What is the run going to be? A 1. Okay, because if we're looking here, each of those boxes does represent 1. Okay, so my rise is 5. My run is a 1. So my slope is going to be 5 over 1, or just 5. So now I can plug it in into my formula, my slope-intercept form. So it would be y is equal to 5, because that's my m, x, and then plus b would be plus 20. There's my equation. Go ahead and do problem C on your own real quick. All right, for problem C, slope is equal to -1. The y-intercept is equal to 3. So what is my equation going to be? Zachary, what's my equation going to be? Y equals mx plus b. What's my m? We're on problem C, honey. What's my m? Look up here. M represents slope. B represents the y-intercept. Are you not paying attention? Okay, you got to make sure you're paying attention. I'm tired too, dude. Pay attention, please. What is the slope-intercept form? Zachary, y equals mx plus b. Identify your m, identify your b, and plug it into the formula. That's it. All right, slope. Slope was -1. The y-intercept was +3. Your formula is just y is equal to your slope, negative. Do I have to write the 1? Can I just write -x? Yeah. We know that there's a 1 there. That's perfectly fine. If you want to say -1, that's okay. But when you're looking at the answer choices, most likely it's just going to say -x. And then it's a +3, so +3. There's your b. Okay, because that's your b value. Your slope was your m. There's your m value. Okay? Now, I drew a table over here because I want you to do one more problem. We're going to work this out. The tables is the most difficult form. Tables are the most difficult form for doing slope-intercept form because you have to identify the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is not always posed for you. Okay? So I'm going to show you how you can find the y-intercept easily, even when it's not given to you in the table. First thing that you're going to do, though, is you're going to find your slope. Remember, you have to find your rise over your run first. Your slope is going to be your rise over the run. So for my y, my rise is what? +3. Thank you. See, you're awake. It's a +3. What is my run? +1. Okay, each time I'm increasing by 1. So my slope is going to be a +3. That's my slope value. Now, to find my y-intercept, I'm going to go ahead and go up here above it in order to be able to find that y-intercept for just a moment. Because you're going to have to pick a point and plug it into your equation. Remember, our equation was y is equal to mx plus b. That's our equation. I already found my slope. I already know that my slope was a 3. I also already have an x value and a y value. In fact, I have 4 x values and 4 y values. I can choose any one of them that I want. I'm going to go ahead and choose this first point because it just makes it easiest. I'm going to choose this first point for my x and my y. So I'm going to replace my y with the value 13. I'm going to replace my x with the value 2. Everybody see why I did that? I'm picking a point that's already on the graph and plugging it into my equation because now I only have one variable that I'm trying to solve for. I pick an x and a y and I plug in my slope and I work the equation out. What's 3 times 2? 6. 3 times 2 is 6. So we have 13 is equal to 6 plus b. What do I need to do to solve? Subtract 6. If I subtract 6 from both sides, what is the value of b? 7. Your b value is going to be equal to 7. So b is equal to a +7. We now can go ahead and write our equation down. Y is equal to slope, which was 3, times x plus 7. Y is equal to 3x plus 7. Again, let me go back over what we just did. We found slope the same way that we've been working with constant rate of change and tables. You find your rise, which is your change of y, over your run, which is your change of x. You then take your slope and you take one of the points. Does it matter which point I choose? No. I could have done 3 and 16. I still would get B is equal to 7. I could have done 4, 19. B would still be equal to 7. 5, 22. B would still be equal to 7. As long as you're plugging them in into the correct values. These were your Y's, these were your X's. Can I do 2 and 22? No. Because 2 and 22 do not correspond with each other. They are not the same for the point. So just be mindful of that. Okay? All right, flip it on over to the back. When we are here looking at these equations, we've got scenarios, different situations in which we're going to have to first graph them onto our grid, and then we're going to interpret the meaning of those slopes and y-intercepts. So it says a kayak rental pavilion charges $15 per hour and $2.50 for a brief lesson on kayak safety. The total cost Y to rent the kayak for X hours is given by this formula. Y equals 15X plus 2.5. So we're going to graph this information onto our grid, and then we're going to interpret what does the slope of 15 represent and what does the y-intercept of 2.5 represent. So the first thing I'm going to do is graph them. First thing that you should always do to graph is you want to graph your y-intercept. So write that down. Step 1, you're going to graph the y-intercept first. So in this case, my y-intercept is at 0 and then 2.5. My y-intercept in this situation is at 0 and then 2.5. Positive 2.5. That represents my y-intercept. So when I'm graphing over here, I'm going to go ahead and label each of these right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and keep going on. And then for my grid, I'm going to go ahead and just count by 5s. And I'll go up to like 50. Don't need to go too far. Okay, so for here, when I say the y-intercept is at 2.5, that means before I even begin, before I've done anything, any rental of the kayak, I have to do $2.50 for my brief lesson. So at 0 hours, I am at 2.5, which is halfway between the 0 and the 5. That's the graphing of my y-intercept. Step 2, remember I told you guys that slope can be used as like a GPS. It's a direction system. You're going to use the slope as direction. So when I say that the slope is 15, that's another way of saying 15 over 1. What direction does that mean I'm going to go? If it's a positive 15 over a positive 1, what direction am I going? Up 15, and then what? To the right 1. I'm going to go up 15 and to the right 1. I could also go down 15 and left 1, but if I go down 15 and left 1, is that going to make sense if we're talking about money here? No. Talking about charging for something, you're not going to be charging negatives. Okay? So we're going to go up 15 and then to the right 1. So that means I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, and then to the right 1. That's where my next point is going to go. It's halfway between the 15 and the 20 mark, because I'm going up 15 from the 2.5. 2.5 plus 15 takes me to 17.5. And then to the right 1. I'm going to do it again. 5, 10, 15, to the right 1. Here's my next point. That takes me at 32.5 when I'm at x equaling 2. And I could keep doing this over and over again, but I just need 3 points. If I've got 3 points graphed, I can go ahead and connect them easily with my ruler. And there's my graph. Now keep in mind, again, when we're talking about functions, is this a linear or non-linear function? What does linear mean again? What does linear mean? What? Straight, it's a line, right? This is a linear function. I just want to give you guys a reminder. Is it proportional or non-proportional? Non. Why? Doesn't go through the origin. Very good. It is not proportional. Does not go through the origin. Just wanted to give you guys those reminders again. It is a linear function, but it is not a proportional function. It's straight, but it doesn't go through the origin. Okay, now let's go ahead and identify what do the slope and the y-intercept represent. So who can tell me the slope of 15, what does that stand for? What does the slope of $15 represent in this situation? Amy? How much they're charging per hour, right? It's a $15 charge per hour. $15 per 1 hour to rent the kayak. You just have to relate it back to the problem. What did the 2.5, the y-intercept represent? What does the 2.5 represent? $2.50 for the brief lesson. Good, yeah, right? The safety lesson that they have. Okay, so the y-intercept equals 2.5 or $2.50 for a brief safety lesson. Okay, you need to make sure that you relate that information back to your problem. Okay, your $15 per hour was your slope. Your $2.50, that represented your brief lesson for safety. Go ahead and do problem 4 on your own. All right, let's go ahead and go over it. A taxi fare y can be determined by the equation y is equal to 0.50x plus $3.50 or plus 3.50, where x is the number of miles traveled. So we want to go ahead and graph this information. I'm going to go ahead and write down my graph here. I'm going to count each of my x values as a value of 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 14. And then for my y-axis, I'm going to go ahead and skip every other box and count by 1. So, you know, we have 0 obviously here. Skip a box 1, skip a box 2, skip a box 3. Okay, and then keep doing that until our last top box, I've gone up to 7. That's just what I'm doing. If you did something different, that's fine. Again, the y represents the cost. The x is going to represent your mileage. So in a situation like here, our y-intercept, which is what we're going to graph first, is going to be graphed at the point 0 and then 3.50 or 3.5. So at 0, we're going to go up to where 3.5 is, and that's located right here. Then we're going to utilize our slope. Our m value for our slope is going to be 0.5. Now remember, I told you if it's in decimal, you need to convert it to a fraction. What's the fraction look like? 1/2, right? 1 over 2, which means that you are going to go up 1 and then to the right 2. Up 1 whole, not one box. It's one whole. You go up 1 whole and to the right 2. So I'm going to go up 1 whole. So that takes me from 3.5 to 4.5. And then I'm going to go to the right 2. 1, 2. I'm going to go up 1 whole, which takes me to the 5.5. And then to the right 2. 1, 2. Okay, I just have to graph 3 points. And then I can connect. That's what my graph is going to look like. Okay, and again, the representation, your slope is going to represent your cost, your money, which is 50 cents per mile that you're traveling. 50 cents for every mile that you travel. Or you could even write it as it's $1 per 2 miles. If you wanted to write it that way, you could say 50 cents per mile, or you could say it's $1 for every 2 miles. And then your y-intercept being $3.50, that's your initial cost before you start traveling. When you guys get a taxi, they charge you a fixed cost at first, because if they're only taking you 1 mile, they're not going to make any money. Okay, so they charge you a minimum price first, and then they start calculating your mileage. So it's essentially like $3.50 just to hail the taxi, and then you get to ride in the taxi. So that's your before cost, or your initial cost. Okay? Go ahead and go to the last page. There's 2 tables on there that I want you to practice finding your y equals mx plus b. So you find your slope, then pick a point to plug into y equals mx plus b to find your b value. All right, for example 5, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find our rise over our run. So our rise, we're going from -2 to 10. That's going to go ahead and be an increase of 12. We're going from 10 to 22, which is an increase of 12. 22 to 34, increase of 12. So I know for my b value, my m value, the rise is going to be a positive 12. The run, we are also increasing. We're increasing by 3 every single time. So our run is an increase of 3. 12 over 3 is going to simplify to 4. So our m value is going to be equal to 4. Now I'm going to pick any point I want and substitute it into my equation. Y is equal to mx plus b. M I know I can replace with the 4. Which point do you think is easier? Do you think I should go ahead and go with the negatives? Probably not. I mean, you could, but sometimes you guys make mistakes. I'm going to go with the 110. That's probably the easiest one to go with because I have a value of a 1 for an x. That means I'm only going to be multiplying by a 1, which I can't really screw that up too much, right? So we've got 10 is equal to 4 times 1 plus b. What's 4 times 1? 4. So we get 10 is equal to 4 plus b. What are we going to do? Minus the 4. Subtract the 4, and what will the value of b equal? 6. b is equal to 6. We get a 6 for our y-intercept. So then our equation is going to be y equals slope, which is 4, that's our m, times x, and then plus b plus 6. There's our equation. Okay, let's take a look at the second one. We have 4, 1, 12, 7, 20, 13, and 28, 19. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my rise over my run for my slope. What's my rise? 6. My rise is plus 6 each time. What's my run? Plus 8. Good. Plus 8 every single time. So it's going to be 6 over 8, which simplifies to 3 over 4. So there's my slope. Okay, my m is going to be equal to 3 over 4. Now I'm going to replace it into my equation. I have y is equal to mx. I'm going to replace that m with a 3 over 4. Pick any point. I'm going to pick that first point. Nice and simple here. So I'm replacing my x with a 4. I'm replacing my y with a 1. What's 3/4 times 4? 3. So we have 1 is equal to 3 plus b. Then I just subtract 3 from both sides, and what do I get? Negative 2. So b is equal to a negative 2. So when I plug it into my equation is y is equal to my slope, which was 3 over 4. That's my m, times x. And then it's going to be minus 2. My b value is a minus 2. So there's my final equation. In Google Classroom, you have your assignments loaded. It is IXL. Get loaded on and working.